You're listening to Wanna Coffee with Kai Alicia.
And Adriana.
Talking
Random.
sensible
shit. Mind and body.
Mind and body connection. Yes. So trailing off, having this great discussion, right, about veganism and vegetarianism and what vegan and vegetarianism, I suppose, mean for many people who are practicing that sort of diligently or not. But, you know, basically this conversation sort of rolled into what it was because you were mentioning how it started off as a diet for you, and then because of all the work that you're uncovering, researching and learning more about vegetarianism and veganism, you realize, wow, there's some bigger aspects, some bigger things in this whole thing which are enlightening and transformative, I think, as you mentioned.
Yes.
Oh,
well, yes, you start thinking that you get to one point until you decide to change, well, not only your diet, but any aspect of your body, of whatever your body does. You decide, okay, for example, I'm not going to eat meat anymore, but that means that your body is going to reject that. You know, it's going to say like, hey, no, you need meat. Or say, for example, suddenly I'm going to start exercising. And then your body, because it's under comfort zone, is going to be like, no, you're staying here in bed, like, you know, no. So any kind of change or thing that you do and you take a conscious decision of changing in your life, your mind is going to be, no. So we were starting to talk about that sometimes it's not just, well, everyone knows it's not just your body reacting, it's also your mind saying, no, we should do this. And it's a constant fight and argument and saying like, no, I'm going to achieve this. I'm going to disregard whatever my body says. I'm going to accomplish it. And it's maybe not just fitness. It could be a mood. Mm-hmm. Maybe if you woke up with a really bad mood, maybe you're feeling a little bit depressed, and then you say like, you feel your physical symptoms, like you feel the fatigue, you feel the like crying, you feel like cranky, whatever, and then you just say like, no, I have to overcome this and see that I have to feel better. You start thinking and say like, no, whatever my body needs, I have to concentrate and focus and say like, no, I'm good, I'm feeling better. And eventually, sometimes, it happens. Mm-hmm. So what do you think about body and
mind
connection?
Yeah, I think it's real. You know, as you're reminding me, as I'm thinking, about like what you were saying about like for even mood, you know, waking up in the morning and maybe being in a bad mood, you know, they say the act of just smiling and continuing to smile over time, if you're in a bad mood or if you're unhappy, starts to change. So the physical act of you placing your mouth in that position starts to change your mind, which is like nuts because you don't necessarily have to engage your mind just yet. Yeah. It's like you physically change, and then your mind changes, which seems pretty close to what you're saying about food. How you started to physically change your diet, and then you saw the physical changes in your body, and you felt the physical changes, and then you started to shift in your mind and realize why there has to be some real good things about this. And then you started to research on your own and find support for your feelings.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's the same thing with bodybuilding in a sense. They change their bodies from the outside in, where they are not necessarily thinking, I'm going to mentally change my body. They're saying I'm going to physically change my body, which will affect my mental, right?
And vice versa. Some of them, they're just training their minds and say like, no, like I've heard so many times, like your husband saying, like in tennis, like people, they, whatever physical exercise they're doing, they're also doing with their minds, because it's about the strategizing. It's about knowing what to do, and that's mental. And then the body follows, like whatever thing that your mind is concocting. The same thing with other athletes. It's like, there's this proverbial anecdote that says that there was a group of 10 basketball players, and 5 that were just trying to shoot the ball, and the other ones that were just thinking, and then the ones that they were thinking about that, they performed better at the end. There was this really famous story, and it's like, yeah, there is something into your mind that at the end can produce effects in your physical performance. And the other way around, whatever you do physically has consequences
to your mental
to your mental health.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever hear about this study where they say that you can change the molecules or the cellular structure of water if you're thinking positively or negatively when you touch it? Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Which is why I feel, not why, but I think is so interesting that so many cultures pray over their food or show gratitude over their food before they eat it. Because it can change. There have been in my mom's culture, like they're very, very superstitious. So it's like they always think like, oh, don't let that jealous person ever make you food because they could kill you, or don't go to their house and have biscuits because they could kill you or something. And I always hear about these stories, and my mom would say like, oh, but I always pray over my food, I always pray over my drink, and it's fine, And
that's lovely. That makes sense. Yeah.
Right. And then, as I got older, I read these scientific studies, of like, you can actually change the molecules something. I can't remember exactly what it was, some structure inside, but you can change it and the water actually be more effective. Which, it's going back to energy, knowing that everything is energy, and that in everything's matter, everything's energy, which means it can be changed.
Yeah. It makes sense. Like, these are the kind of things that you have to be. I think everyone is a little bit skeptical, but you also have, believe a little bit in these things, because there are so many things that we cannot see still today. Energy, we know it is there. Everyone has felt energy. We cannot see it, but it is there, and it affects us. Like, how many times, like, one has seen people walking down the street, and then you see, that person doesn't vibe with me, or you meet, or you're introduced to someone, and you're like, I don't feel that person. That person doesn't agree with me. It's because of energy, something that you cannot explain or see, but it is there. So I think that I like what you say about food, because food has a really emotional bond with people, and not only physical. We just not eat for having some sustenance. We eat because, if we are honest, we can eat gruel every day. We will be like, okay, we won't be starving or anything, but we will be really depressed. So that's the connection, I guess, that I want to paint on. Food and emotions and how it affects your body.
Also interesting though, I had an aunt of mine who outlived my other aunt, and she died when she was like 88. All she ever did was drink alcohol. She was the happiest person I've ever met. 24/7, so happy, living her life. I've literally had never seen her sober. Never. I've never seen her sober. She died that way. And sometimes I wonder, is it food? You know what I'm saying? Is it her was it her happiness, which that beer was like, like a really nice meal all the time. It always was so good to her. Yeah. And you think about these rock stars who can, who can just like...
I can see no CEOs were like, doing all those kind of
shows all the time, and then like, doing all those drugs and vomiting or not vomiting, but like kicking ass and not dying.
There's just
why are they so different? Like what is it? Just that we're just unique? I just tend to think, yes, I tend to think that everyone is unique, but I do think that there's this other component, which is that mind-body connection, which is unique to everyone and how they probably access it. But the likelihood is the more in tune you are, the more receptive you can be to, being like, I can have that. I will have that. I will do that.
Or just finding what makes you happy, what makes you tick. Like, I'm a happy person just eating chocolates every single day.
Yeah.
Like happiness, I think, will pretty much be on top of whatever your body will say, because your happy is like, it will feel that it's some sort of adrenaline the body feels that makes it forget other necessities. You know when they said that when you have this mental state, which you are either like excited or super happy, or for that matter super sad, whatever, your body tends to forget other needs.
Yep.
And it just keeps going and going and going. So maybe they just found that state where their body just feels good and keeps going. But then at the end, like, you see all these people that they have drugs and alcohol, the body also says, okay, no, that's it. These are the consequences that you're going to have a cirrhosis or something like that.
But those people, I feel like it's like me with the stimulants. It's like their body says, this is a surge, and it's a temporary surge. Yeah. Like someone like, for example, Mick Jagger. Mm-hmm. That guy, like, how old is that? He is not living the vegan lifestyle. No. Okay? He is not living the vegan. He is like supreme rock star, and he lives like trash. You know what I mean? Just like drugs, alcohol, all the... I do think everyone's unique, but I just tend to feel like the way in which people access this mind and body connection, and how they can temper that and be like, hell yeah, I'm gonna do that. I knew this guy, one of Kirk's previous clients, my husband's previous clients. His girlfriend kept saying, like, you need to stop smoking cigarettes. You have to stop. Like, it's so unhealthy. Especially when our baby comes around, you're going to be a new father. I need you to stop. So she's really like a naturopath type of a person, and he's like, I just go to the doctor, what's the big deal, you know? And so he goes to the naturopath. He's like, fine, I'll go to the naturopath. And the naturopath was like, oh no, for you cigarettes are okay. He's fine to have cigarettes. His body type, his emotional capacity, these are not going to negatively affect him. And the way he saw cigarettes, it was like it was almost like having a treat, but he didn't have him as a treat. He had him, you know, every break.
Oh boy.
But it was like having a treat. It was like, oh, get to have my little treat now.
Okay. It was not like an stressed smoker. Like, oh God, I need to smoke because this is so stressing and just need.
I think he was. He's a chef. So I think he was. But the naturopath believed that his tolerance for that was fine.
Oh, that's interesting because especially with cigarettes, which we all know that they're cancerous, like, yeah, something will happen. It's something, you're polluting your body with the substances, but
maybe it's what he thinks about them.
Yeah, you've seen like many people who are sick and they just keep going, and it's not just until the doctor says, hey, by the way, you're sick, it's like everything falls down. And then you start guessing like, maybe if that person wouldn't have known, they must have survived.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, it's what you make of it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's what you make of it. And it will be the same with, sometimes, I'm not saying all the time, sometimes with depression or anxiety or someone having a neurosis. It's more about your temperament and what you think about the way you're looking at things, and not your body telling you, yeah, this is bad, and you're having a physical reaction to the stressor that you're living.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Sometimes.
Yeah,
I'm not saying all the time. Sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing that, for example, addictions. Like when you eat, do you feel what you're eating? Do you eat, or if you have an eating disorder, do you just eat for the sake of it? Or if you're a sex addict, for example, you just do it because you want to, but you don't feel anything at all. And is that good for you, or do you necessarily have to feel something? My point being, it's a physical need, but and everyone has it, but what does your mind make of it?
Yeah, I think so. What does your mind make of that? And I think that's why I probably don't want to ever subscribe to one thing. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, or I'm almost like, oh, like for a while, my friend was telling me like, or you know who Dr. Sebi is? This real extremist herbalist, vegan who died recently. Not recently, probably a couple of years ago. But he basically says anything man-made is harmful for the system.
No.
One of those things, like, and he's got like, he's vegan, right? So there's like a handful of things that you can eat. It is a really restrictive diet. But one of the, like, he doesn't allow for carrots, broccoli, regular bananas. They have to be sugar bananas. Like, he's got a whole
really
list.
Oh
Yeah, it's amazing, his list. But it's basically all the things that were like first, you know, all the fruits and vegetables that were first. So you know, carrots are man-made, broccoli's man-made, cauliflower's man, a number of different things.
Really, cauliflowers were man-made?
He just says they were, you know, they weren't
hybrids of
correct.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to remove broccoli from my diet.
That's iron.
Huh?
That's iron.
It could be right. It's so much stuff, right? And I'm like, okay, yes, I'm gonna. But I didn't have a problem with broccoli. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I never had a problem with broccoli, for real. But then I thought, well, maybe I did have a problem with broccoli, and I just didn't know that I had a problem with broccoli, right? So I removed broccoli from my diet because it's man-made. But I started to have this thing about broccoli, like, oh, you know, broccoli gives you gas, and broccoli does this, and it's actually like, you know, if you look at it, it looks like a mini tree. And so, like, when it comes to my stomach, you know, I don't chew that well anyway. It's probably not going to process as well. It's going to be harder to digest. What do we know about broccoli? It is harder to digest, and it does create gas. But I was coming up with this shit, right? Before I knew about it. And then when I, out of the blue, like, had it again, I was like, oh, my stomach, I feel so bloated. But I never had this before. Like,
So it's more like your mind was already...
I conditioned my mind.
Conditioned, yeah.
You know, I conditioned my mind to, now that's what happens to me. You know, and so I had to, I remember saying to myself, there's nothing wrong with this. I'm going to cut this into little pieces and see how I go. Or I'm going to blend it, you know, and try it in a different way, or like put it in a soup, and then no problems, right?
Yeah.
No problems. So then yes, I'm with you with this whole mind-body connection, and that you have so much power. Your mind has so much power over everything. But sometimes the way in which you change things is not just starting with your mind. It may have to start with the physical.
Yes. It has to, like... Mind has to be trained sometimes, I will say. So you have to force yourself. And I think that when you start forcing yourself to think something or to do something that is not necessarily physical, but it still is something forced.
Yeah.
You are, then I will consider it physical. And I have like an example. Say, I've seen this exercise that says, I did it, you have to be more positive. I was like, I should be more positive. That's mental, right? And it was, okay, so find 5 things, write 5 things every day that are positive. And I was like, whatever, like, you know. I was like, it took me a physical effort to find those 5 things. You know, my life, I'm not living a bad life. But it's just like, I need to find it. And how do I do it? And I have to set an alarm. And it was this whole process. You might as well have told me you have to do 100 abs on the floor right now every day. Because for me, it was a physical effort. And it was like, okay, I'm going to train myself. Try to find something and try to write it down. And then days passed by. There for a couple of weeks. And then I realized that it was getting easier and easier. Just like they say, a mental exercise. But it was like a physical effort for me to just, first of all, focus. Second of all, like, you know, having that discipline, because your mind is wandering around and you have, no, I have to do this. And then I will say the mental results of that exercise came when a few weeks passed, and then I was easily finding the positive things. And it was like, okay, that was interesting. That was good. It is like.
Do you think that exercise? I'm curious because like I've done those gratitude things too. I've always wondered about those things. Not to shift the conversation entirely, but do you think that they're lasting?
I think if you make them a habit.
Yeah.
Because the thing is that you are, you know, once you decide to take one of these exercises, you're seeing yourself from a point of view that, okay, I'm pessimistic, or I'm not seeing the light of the day here, and I definitely need to change. So you're trying to contrast those attitudes or behaviors. So I think they last. I will say not in the way that I'm going to be like a happy, shiny flowers kind of person, but I will have trained my mind not to think of other things negatively. Or stop thinking, or try to exercise your mind when you have something negative, something positive will come. I think it's more like mind training instead of attitude changing. Yeah. But then again, mind over body. Like at the end, if I'm happy in my mind because I found, I'm aware that I'm doing good in my life, my body will feel it too.
It's true.
Most likely that I'm going to have less anxiety. I'm going to have less stress. I'm going to be able to do some other things. I don't know, because of that. And it's something small that it has the whole physical mind.
I read this. No, I didn't finish the book, but it's called The Brain That Changes Itself. And it's basically all about these doctors' personal accounts on how they gave a crazy diagnosis to someone whose brain was severely altered or impairing them in some way. And against all odds, these people, even one of them, rebuilding their brains. Because the brain's a muscle and elastic. And so that's probably the easiest thing to rebuild. And it talks about basically it's a doctor's perspective. I think and they don't know how to medically account for this person's change or success rate, but they just know that they were able to change their brains.
The brain rewires itself. That there's a lot of theories over there that they say, no, you can do it. Like you can actually change your brain and say, for example, exercise. Like when you exercise, your body is releasing more serotonin and endorphins, exactly, which is good for like avoiding depression. So the longer you do and the more you do exercise, your body will continue releasing, and there are long-lasting effects. It's not only just while I was doing my exercise I was feeling happy. It's something that is enduring and will continue if you keep some sort of exercise routine. So yeah. Or have you seen those cases like, I think scrolling on Instagram or scrolling on YouTube, you will see those kind of cases that this guy was shot and he lost like quarter of his head, and you see the poor guy, like pretty much dies.
Yeah.
And then that person is doing great because his brain kind of got used to it and accommodated itself and reorganized. So that person is doing okay without that quarter of a brain.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that you're right.
What's the takeaway here? What are the takeaways here?
Maybe everything you do has consequences in your mind, and everything you think has consequences in your body.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Everything you do in your mind has consequences in your body, and everything you do in your body has consequences in your mind.
We should have a wellness channel.
Yes. That's it. Yes. We'll double to that. Yes, we should. And yes, I agree with that. Also, perspective is everything. That's probably another thing.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you do it, if you don't believe in it.
Yeah.
And if you don't think it's going to work, then
yeah,
you can. What's the saying? You can take the horse to the river.
Yes, you can't make it drink. You can lead a horse to the river, but you can't force it to drink. But everything has you should pray over your food. No, but you should think good thoughts.
That's true.
Over
yes.
Your food, over your day-to-day. I think not even you should think, you should impose. You should I think that's really it. You should be in the good practice, in the good habit of acceptance of good things.
Oh, yes.
Of just accepting that it's good. Like I think about the chef who smoked. Mm-hmm. He enjoys that smoke. Yeah. He doesn't think this is a bad thing. He's read in articles and various things, and people have told him at various times that this is harmful for him. He looks at that thing as a very positive thing in his life. He is accepted it as that.
Yeah.
You know? And so I think that has something to do with his body receiving it in a positive manner.
Yeah.
Or at least it's
it
not...
should help to contrast, the bad things.
Yeah. Yeah. And, no, I will never say be happy. And I'll never say be positive. Live, laugh, love.
Love.
Oh, God. But, I think you definitely be accept that good things are meant for you and that things in your life are meant for you so that you can accept them as, it's like my dad will always say, I'll be like, oh, Dad, I'm freaking out because blah, 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 blah. And he's like, take it as a nice challenge. Take it as a nice challenge. And I'm just like, fuck you. Take it as a nice challenge.
Really?
I don't want to take it as this is horrible, But it's a really good perspective. Yeah. It's like, because essentially he's saying, but this is meant for you. So this is like a nice little obstacle course that you're going to have to learn how to get through now.
Yeah. Like, this is your path, and your path is already like, it's like kind of fate kind of thing.
It is.
Like, this is what you have to go through.
Yeah.
To get where you want to be.
Dang it. And persistence is key. Sorry, I'm just trying to take away all these takeaways because I think they're so good. You talking about like exercise as a part of like habit and routine, because of the lasting effects that it has on you, or for example, the gratitude journal and the lasting effects that has on you. It's your persistent. It's not even the thinking, going into it positively. It's the physical thing of doing it all the time, regularly, and getting into a practice of it that led you to an understanding and an appreciation and a discovery.
Exactly. Or if you want to see it the other way around, like if you want to see the power of your mind, so many people, I will say, last year, they were really optimistic and really happy and really cheerful. And then after 1 month, 2 months of really shitty news, they're like, I hate this. I hate the world. The world is the worst. And it's just like maybe nothing bad has happened to them, but it's just them being exposed, or your mind being like thinking all this or analyzing all this bad news, that they just realize that the world is ending. Yeah, exactly. And it's the same logic, exposing yourself to the same thoughts continuously. And now these people, they will think, this is the worst. I feel stressed. I feel fatigued or anxious. And maybe nothing had happened to them, but it's just exposure.
Thanks for listening. We want to know what you think.
Send us your comments and follow us on Twitter and Facebook
at #WannaCoffeePod.